Welcome back. We come back to Nairobi and focus on the position of governor and two different people from the ones we've seen in the news lately. One about to turn 26, the other one has been fighting to be in a position of leadership in as far as governance is concerned. Not that he hasn't, but has been, of course, in the forefront in as far as democracy in this country is concerned. Let me start with him. It's Wanyiri Kihoro. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
And this man turning 26, Geoffrey Kobia. The middle name is Thuku?
Thuku.
Yeah, Thuku.
Geoffrey Thuku.
Yes.
Kobia. Thuku is a very powerful name. And you're turning 26, so we'll talk about that shortly. But let's just start in terms of just who you are, so that the Kenyans can know who they're talking to. Let me start with you, Bwana Kihoro. So who is Wanyiri Kihoro? And interesting, I mean, you've been with the people who fought for, dare I say, second liberation, but you've opted to run as an independent candidate.
Yes.
So who are you? What's your professional background, and why running in this very historical election as an independent candidate?
Thank you. I can say very briefly that I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I'm also a lad economist.
Yes.
I'm a member of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. I'm also an arbitrator. 3 professions in one person.
Wow.
And I come from a background of fighting for liberation of my country. And this is a matter I've done since my university days in 1975. That's when I left the university. And I've seen things go wrong in my country, and I've not shied away. I came to Nairobi when it was like a golden city, when it was clean. Yeah, sitting in the sun. It meant something then.
Right.
Today you might find it does not mean as much.
Yeah.
And I come also from a background of working with poor people, and being a lawyer, fighting for people working in the quarries, people living in the slums. I was a leading lawyer in fighting for the free primary education being misappropriated in the Ministry of Education. That is the most recent one.
Right, yes.
But I come from a variety of activities, and I've been very active in the civil society, been active in the professions, and I also been active in fighting for truth and justice in this country.
Absolutely. From
Magara to Kisumu and name it, I've been there, and I believe I can make Nairobi a better place to live in than we have been in.
Absolutely. Why independent?
I ran as an independent because I have looked at how political parties in this country have been run down from independence. We started with KANU as a leading political party that brought independence to my country. And then you find today KANU is like it doesn't exist. And then you find other political parties that have been formed every election year.
Yes.
We have a new political party coming up. Therefore, they don't stand for anything of value. And I looked around, there are now 57 registered political parties in this country, each one of them at least having a membership of 24,000 people. And I find the members do not control or run the political parties. They are run by the big boys, the godfathers, and the godmothers of this country. And that is why I find it very difficult to fit into any political party, because they don't have an agenda. If they had one, they would actually fit into the welfare of our people, the socio-economic requirements of our people. Absolutely. And now they don't.
Thuku.
Yes, sir.
You remind us of history, when including Wanyiri Kihoro, actually, as he told us before we started the show, that he ran for his first elective position when he was 24.
1979.
Exactly. And you take us that way back, even when the current sitting president, I think between the ages of 26 and 29, in terms of being the executive officer for KANU at that time. Tell us about yourself and why you want to run for governor. What's your professional background, and what puts you in good stead to perhaps be the eligible candidate for?
So thank you very much, Bwana Jimmy, and I'm really happy to be here today. At least I would like first to thank Citizen for hosting us. And well, I just give you a brief background about myself. I'm humble and extremely hardworking Kenyan citizen. I've been born and bred in Nairobi. And just to give you maybe my history, where I've come from.
Yes.
So I studied my primary school in Dandora Primary School.
Dandora?
Dandora 1, yeah. And it was really interesting when I was in Dandora. You finish your primary school, about 6 ladies become expectant, and some of your classmates are shot down because they're gangsters. Well, for me, I was lucky, and with God's grace, I was able to join Dagoretti High School.
Well done.
And, well, after finishing Dagoretti, I wanted to do medicine in the US, but for one reason or the other, I was not given a visa. So I said, well, I can still make it in Kenya.
Right.
So I joined Strathmore University to do accounts,
Right.
finance option. I worked very hard, studied, and made sure that I graduated with a first-class honors in finance. After my graduation, still God blessing me, I managed to join one of the largest corporations in the world. That is General Electric.
Straight from graduation?
Straight from graduation. In fact, I must say I had like 3 companies which I wanted to work for. But fortunately, General Electric, which is giving me the strength today to sit and say, I have the background to lead this Nairobi. I owe it credit. So I worked as a commercial analyst for my first year. My responsibility was basically to look at the various segments of the economy. My Bible was the Vision 2030 document, to make sure I analyze it, make sure and look for the opportunities where we could partner with the government, and that really taught me many things. And I know G has really given me exposure on the different verticals that we have interest in. That is energy, transportation, aviation, power and water, oil and gas. And we even have a media business. So it's really interesting when you're seated in the corporate end working with the government, because the government is always our largest customer per se. So I know the bottlenecks in the government, I know what the private sector is expecting, and I've come from a background where I know the guys in Mashinani, in Dandora, what they want, and I interact with them. In fact, our family home is in Eastlands. So I'm basically the best candidate for this position.
But, well, of course, it's very clear. I mean, the governor stands as a chief executive of this particular county, and we need a leader who is visionary.
Yes.
Now, this question specifically goes to you, sir. There has been a debate surrounding the fact that, you know, we have digital and analog.
Yes.
We need somebody who will take this country to the next level, to the future. Now, you came into the political scene at the age of 24,
Yes.
1979.
Yes.
Thuku is coming in right now at the age of 26, and we're looking at a visionary leader. What is your take on that in terms of taking the country to the next level of excellence?
Yes, I think it is very important to look at where Nairobi is today.
Yes.
Look at a metropolis that has got a population of 3.7 million, and maybe 60% of the population in Nairobi wonder whether the sun will go down today, because they'll be living in darkness for the next 12 hours. So we have to look at the situation prevailing in Nairobi, look at our people, and also look into the future. The future is very important, and it is today when we prepare for the future. So for me, as governor of Nairobi, I don't want to see Nairobi focusing on the immediate problems we have, because there are people who are living in conditions that we find abhorrent in a dependent country. So we will focus on our housing, on our health infrastructure. We are going to focus on our education infrastructure, and in education lies the future. That is where we will go into the digital world and try to put up with the West, and now again with China. That will be important. It will be important also in terms of employment in Nairobi, because there are people who could be living in Nairobi and working in New York and working in China, in Beijing, and even Hong Kong. That will be important. But I believe myself, it is important as we focus on the future, we also look at the living conditions of our people in terms of all the social, communal infrastructure, and make Nairobi firstly a better place to live in for everybody, as we prepare also for those who can be able to do so, to work and put up with the digital world. That is also evolving for the last 20 years. If you look at Bill Gates, where he was 20 years ago, and the Microsoft Corporation, they have evolved, and sometimes we feel that even in the digital world, we are becoming obsolete as time goes by. So we will put up with the future as we also focus on the problems we have in Nairobi today.
But perhaps just a follow-up question to you, Thuku.
Okay.
There has been a concern when it comes to leaders who will take us back to our rich past and actually bring us to the reality of a national debate or dialogue. And when it comes to leadership, we need somebody who is experienced, somebody who knows this, where this county has come from, where it is, and where it is going. You're just 26 years. Of course, you've talked about what you've done, but you see, leadership is not so much about talking English. It's about understanding what is happening on the ground. How do you intend to convince people in Nairobi County that you're the right governor for them?
Well, first, Bwana Mwakazi, I'd like to tell you one thing. The Constitution is very clear on the qualifications of a governor. They know what kind of qualifications you need, and I've met those qualifications. And I've even surpassed the expectations of the Constitution. I'm a person who has the end-to-end solution. I've interacted with the corporate world. I know what happens in the ground, the poor, and I've also lived with the middle class. I'm a person who will claim to understand what the people need. And from my track record, you can see that whatever kind of opportunity that I'm given, I'm able to yield results. And the other thing is, I find myself the most credible candidate. Because for me, I have 30 or more years to live. And if I screw up now, then no one would want to hire me. So we have most of the individuals there, if they screw up, they retire. For me, if I screw up, then I need to leave Nairobi because no one would want to hire me. So when you take that in consideration, and the fact that I've interacted with the people at Mashinani, I constantly go there to visit them, I understand the issues they're facing. And given an opportunity, I'd want the youth to come out strongly and demand what has been taken out of Nairobi County. So that's why I'm convinced that I'll be able to work with the Wazes, and the youth are going to support me as well, and to make sure that we get the revolution.
I also believe in this matter, experience is very important. It is experience not only being born in an urban setting. Many candidates for governor or even for president, all of them, I believe, claim to have been born in a maternity in Pumwani, but that will not be important. I think it is important to be experienced in terms of the problems we have in Nairobi, and also to focus on the issues, because I've seen a lot of debates from candidates who want to focus on each other. And that is very tragic, because when it is a governor for Nairobi, yes, there are certain politics involved in it, but I think predominantly a governor for Nairobi should be somebody who focuses on the issues of the population. We have 3.7 million, up to 4 million today, and also there are 1.7 million voters. There are about 1 million children going to school. There are hospital infrastructure in Nairobi that needs to be focused on, so that we relieve Kenyatta Hospital and the major hospitals, because some of the problems that take people to Kenyatta Hospital are treatable in the dispensary around the corner. So there are very many common issues that can be solved, all environmental issues in Nairobi, about the smoke, about Nairobi River, about the quality of the water. All these are very important, and they need somebody with that kind of background.
Let's be specific, and I'm going to quantify everything into what the Constitution says in many aspects. I think Article 174 onwards talks about what your role as the governor would be in terms of the executive committee you will set up, which is principle in terms of what you are as a leader. You're supposed to maintain those principles, aspirations of the people of the county that you represent, ensuring equitable distribution of resources and services to the counties. So let's talk about those specifics and whether you are able to deliver that to the county of Nairobi. They say 15 billion shillings, and maybe it has gone up in terms of what will be allocated to you.
Just about that amount.
Exactly, exactly. Now, you're strong in land. You're very specific about land. I think it's health. So we're going to be, because of the essence of time,
yes.
Let's hear your concepts, your ideas in terms of aggressive policies that you put in place.
Yes.
In terms of those specifics. So 15 billion, what will you do with that 15 billion? In areas that you feel very strongly will jumpstart in Nairobi as a county. And you started off earlier in terms of what you will do, and that's what everyone else says.
Yes.
Yeah, the issues in terms of health, and everyone knows that. But what is Wanyiri Kihoro's difference in terms of using that 15 billion adequately? I mean, it may not be enough, but it will help you jumpstart a few things here and there.
Yes.
That will put
I
you
think there is a lot of, firstly, money in Nairobi that could well come to support infrastructural development in Nairobi. If you look at, for instance, the housing industry,
yes.
It is not only a very important and lucrative area of operation, it is also important in terms of how much money, even today, goes into housing. And I would want to see Nairobi focusing more on lower class housing. Lower class and lower income
focus
groups.
How?
And that can be done by looking at certain areas in Nairobi that should be amenable for business, especially by hawkers,
yes.
or people in small businesses. It can be done by looking at people who are just about low income, but they want to build their own houses. So Nairobi County government can be able to focus on people building their own houses by introducing a more robust site and service scheme, where the 15 billion can be used to a certain extent to develop certain services, and where people will be facilitated to build their own houses. That will be employment for them, and that will be also a more comfortable life for many of them. We will now go into electricity and go into water, and also bringing more water into Nairobi. That will be very important. So I'm saying that in terms of the people who sometimes are run down by the city council, there are many, like in the transport industry, who would also want to chip in with their own money to support the money that will be coming from central government or revenue that is coming to Nairobi county government, to be able to invest in long-lasting housing, transport, water development, and also in information technology. They would want to do that. Not only in Konza City, can we also have a small Konza City in the eastlands of Nairobi?
Yes, okay. So I'd like first to say, for me, what I believe, the county is, I would say, by far, we are managing the county that is the largest capital in East and Central of Africa. So I don't want a situation we give leadership to the wrong hands. People who don't set up the right infrastructure to efficiently allocate these resources. We are talking about 15 billion. Most people, the sources of corruption, I would say, is inefficiency. And if proper structures are not done, I will not promise that the first 100 days I'll be working on grand plans and whatnot. My first 100 days is to make sure my county is in a position, even if Geoffrey dies tomorrow, we've set up the infrastructure to efficiently monitor the resources that have come to my county, make sure we are optimizing the allocation of those resources. I want to do an audit on the assets and the liabilities that my county has, and make sure that the executive committee, which will basically be professionals, are people who I can work with, and I can also have a department, a disciplinary committee. If we say in my county it's going to take 2 days to get a work permit, I'll be accountable as the county governor to make sure, should anything happen and the third day you don't have your business permit, someone has to take disciplinary action against the departmental head. If it means that we need to hire more people to make it efficient, you're not going to pay an extra coin. If it takes 2 weeks for us to process a document, if you want it fast-tracked, I want to make sure as a county governor we have the infrastructure to fast-track that process, and you pay money to the government. to fast-track that process. And then when I talk specifically about healthcare, where I have some level of experience,
absolutely, yes.
I want to do audits. I don't want to be in a situation where we are claiming that we are cardiac hospital, dispensary, and we don't even have the equipment.
Sure.
So I want to do the audit of both the infrastructure and the personnel. Are they well trained to do the care areas they're talking about? Do we have equipment? You realize one of the key things why the middle class and the high class people are going to private hospitals is because unfortunately the clinics that we have at my county currently are not able to give quality healthcare. So they go for expensive and quality healthcare in the private sector. So
in a nutshell, give us a radical proposal that you put in place. I mean, so far so good in terms of setting up infrastructure that will be able to give you an audit of how your money is used in basically maintaining internal revenue.
Yes.
But we know Jende Kihoro wrote an article yesterday talking about radicalism in terms of policy, because he used Tom Mboya, whose policies to date are still being used both within Africa and without. So what will be different about you, Thuku? What will say that this guy is 26-year-old and he thinks like a 26-year-old and he works for a company like General Electric and this is how they think? So far I'm not hearing that.
Let me tell you, if I'm elected or if I become the governor of this county,
so
I'm
ready. Not when, if.
I'm ready to sign a commitment,
to
sign a commitment, and everyone, even the private sector, will hold me accountable. If I don't deliver on my promises within the 2 years, I will resign. And I'm not afraid. And I will sign in front of the public and say, if they're not getting action on the promises that I've put across, I will resign.
Well, I mean, that's a powerful one. And of course, you know, we will hold you accountable if at all you're elected. But I'm a bit concerned that we might end up, yes, we're tabling all these ideas, but we might just end up tabling quixotic ideas that can only be found in fairy tales. Think about it. Even when it comes to housing, we have slums out there, and anytime there's an idea of building houses and all that, there's a fear that, you know what, this is being propagated by rich people who want to take over our places of where we live. How do you reconcile the war between the rich and the poor with whatever ideas that you're saying? Because the reality seems to be totally different from what you're suggesting. It's like you're given the opportunity to be governor and you'll do this 1, 2, 3 in a week's day.
It will not be magical, and I can say that in Nairobi already, from the 70th, we have had very many strategic master plans on development in certain areas, from housing to health, education, transport. There are very many master plans, and I'm not saying they are all implementable today, but they need revision, and there are experts who can be able to do that on a short beach where they don't do it for 1 year or 2 years and becomes another cash cow. It's possible to revise so many, like on transport. It's possible to ease the traffic in jam in Nairobi.
I'm very specific about that because you mentioned it.
Yes.
What your blueprint is for the transportation in Nairobi County, because it is a mess.
Yes. I think firstly is to improve. Is firstly to improve, to remove nearly 30% of the transport that is moving on Nairobi roads that should not be there. They are heavy commercial vehicles.
Yes.
You find it is like putting a train on a road, and that is what we are trying to run. That is not possible. So I think it is very important to make sure that you move some of the transport, heavy vehicles going to DRC, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda. They need to be taken out of, especially Uhuru Highway.
But that's being done now with the southern and northern bypass.
That is good. It needs to be improved on, and you need now also. But
it is being improved.
You need to, it has to be improved on. And I think I was part of the program that looked at the bypasses in Nairobi.
Yes.
In 203, in the Ministry of Roads and Transport. And I think you can say that is partly part of my work. I went through the bypasses.
What about the internally in Nairobi?
And
we lose 50 million. Is it a day?
I think we need to improve public transportation, more reliable transportation.
How?
I believe that we need to finance people who own the matatus that can carry maximum 14 people. They need to, there needs to be found a way in which it is possible to pool the small vehicles into bigger vehicles, have transport cooperatives like we had Kenatico. When Kenatico started nearly 40 years ago, it was individually run cooperative society. It's possible to do so in transport. Have bigger vehicles where people are going to be put on certain timetables, on certain routes. It's possible. It has been done before. Myself, when I first came to Nairobi, I came on time on a bus that was leaving at a certain station in the rural area on time. How could it be done 40 years ago? Cannot be done today. So it's possible to do that. And to improve on the master plans, that is possible. Move away some of the transport that is going to central Nairobi, that does not need to be there. And also open up more commercial satellite area for shopping, for especially grocery. Vehicles coming from the rural area to bring food from Nyandarua or coming in from Thika direction or coming in from Masakos. A bit of it from Kajiado. We need to do that. Have more satellite town for greenery.
To ease traffic in Nairobi.
To ease the traffic jam in central Nairobi CBD, in the CBD.
So let me throw that to you, because I know General Electric has a blueprint in terms of infrastructure across some of its networks. How would you resolve this one? Is SACCO's it? Is what his proposal saying, which works? Is that the way you would go, or would you do yours?
First, I'd say for me, my key focus for my first maybe 2 years is to make sure I implement things that are achievable. I don't want to promise you that I'll do subways, which are long lead time projects. So for me, what I'll implement some strategies that have really worked and are affordable. For example, I would make sure that the heavy trucks or people who are supplying goods, because sometimes you find there's no adequate parking space, and if a truck comes to supply goods even to a supermarket, then it cause traffic. And this will be done at night. So if you supply goods at night, then you're basically saying that the people who are receiving the goods have to receive them at night. So you're also promoting a 24-hour economy, because those people who are receiving, they're basically working at night, and those people who are transporting the goods is traffic congestion during the day. Then I also would want to introduce some incentives. For example, I would negotiate with the railway, the commuter rail, to make sure it's affordable for people to use it as an alternative. I'd also introduce congestion taxes to make sure if and when it's absolutely necessary, that's when you come with your car to town. Because as a governor, I've already negotiated and I've subsidized the commuter rail fares. So for me, I think I'd use the short lead time projects for the first 2 years. As I think about other projects, I've already, if you look at my document here, I already have grand plans of how we can finance projects of subways, and how we can do, we can even have the BRTS, which is a bus rapid transport system that is being deployed in countries like Brazil. So we basically have dedicated lanes for buses. So if you're in a bus, you move much faster than if you're in a private car. So that's how I would do it.
I've lived in London for 10 years, and I know all about that one, dedicated lane for public transport also. And I think London very much like Nairobi. 10 years when I was in exile, and I think these are good ideas to bring to Nairobi.
Let's talk about mindsets. Apart from being the chief executive officer of the county, which is what the constitution says, which is a big thing. I mean, it's equivalent to the president being the chief executive officer of the country.
Yes.
I mean, you know, your mini president, so to speak. In fact, many people say the next president will probably come from Governor Nairobi. Possible. So let's talk about mindsets. You will also be assenting to bills that have been passed by the county assemblies.
Yes.
You know, just like the president does on a national level. And many people say that requires a certain mindset, that you know, your mind is really focused on the people of your county. Let me start with you, Bwana Kihoro, because you have history in terms of agitating for democracy, and that puts you in a different level altogether.
Yes.
Will you be able to handle or take advice from people in as far as laws for the county are concerned? And will you be able to listen to reason? And give us examples of what you've done before that makes you put you in a good state in terms of being the person who listens to reason in as far as laws beneficial for the county are concerned.
I've been a member of parliament for a period of 5 years for Wanyiri town constituency, and being a governor of Nairobi is for me like a promotion.
Yes.
Because I've served already an urban setting that is very important, huge population, provincial capital. And I also was a very active registrator in Parliament. I actually did a book on that. A nation in motion is about my debate in Parliament, and this I did more than 10 years ago.
Yes.
I haven't done it for the elections. I can tell you I've also done another 5 books.
Right.
And I come with a lot of experience in terms of registration in Parliament, and matters like CDF. I was a leading mover with Muriuki Karwe, who is now also standing for governor of Nyandarua.
Yes.
Yeah, he is actually standing. And with that kind of background of having been a member of Parliament, having seen bills go through the process of the 3 stages and the committee stage and coming out, and then going for the presidential assent, I've seen in the last dissolved Parliament a lot of tendency to have bills passed by Parliament rejected. I can tell you when I was a member of Parliament, 1987-2002, a period of 5 years, only 1 bill was rejected by the president then, Mr. Moi. And actually, when it was rejected, and it had not been done before, it was the Dode bill.
Yes.
It became such a dramatic issue, how Parliament can be overruled by the president. And it is something that has become almost habitual. President Kibaki could have refused to assent to nearly 10 bills, which he thinks are not, including the last one, about the escalation of the MPs' gratuities and salaries, something that should not have happened at all.
Absolutely.
Because I believe also public service is not about becoming a millionaire on public funds. I don't think it should be at all. And even when I was member of Parliament, these are things we opposed vehemently, because we know where our country is coming from. Cannot be that you want to become a millionaire on public funds. So I think I come with a lot of experience as a former member of Parliament, as a professional person with 3 professional backgrounds.
Yes.
I come with a variety of ideas about having worked in the public service in Kenya, Ministry of Local Government, in 1975 up to 79 when I went to elections in Bahati, in Nairobi. And also having worked as a lawyer, I come with such variety of experience that I believe I would be a balanced person.
Make the proper decisions for the country.
To make the proper decision for the country.
So he's got public administration experience. You've worked with government in terms of commercial strategies and so on and so forth. Talk about the experiences you have that will make you have that sort of mindset that you're able to listen to reason in as far as the laws for the county is concerned.
Jimmy, thanks for the question. For me, when it comes to listening to reason, I'm not a one-man show, for sure, because I have my county executive team, which I'll be seeking professional guidance from, and I also have the people, because I want to hear what the people are saying out there and what the expectations are in regards to some of the laws that they've been presented for me to assent. So what will be my key concern is to make sure before I assent to a law, I need to know what is the voice of the people, because they're the ones who have put me in that position. I'm their servant. So, and when you look at some of the things that I've done, some of the projects that I've achieved, I've not done alone. I can't claim that I've achieved those projects alone. I consult with people. I hear reason. One of the projects that I have exposure to, and I can't disclose due to confidentiality agreements. I've done some financials for some of the projects we're working at GE, and I work with people in that team. And if I've made some mess, then I'm corrected and I implement those projects.
Just a bit of concern. Of course, you've said that it's very true.
Okay.
As a leader, it's not a one-man's show. You work with the people.
Yeah.
But then, when you look at the country, when we're talking about ethnic polarization, in Nairobi or urban centers, we normally talk of economic polarization.
Okay.
It's a battle between the rich and the poor. And for a leader to really succeed, you need to bring the two communities together so that they work as one indivisible community. How do you intend to do that?
I think it is very important to bring the whole of Nairobi together, and without being also a governor who will look like, maybe with my background, I might look like I might be more inclined to favor the people who are not very well off. But I think in many countries we find that kind of tendency, that when you look at common issues between the communities in Nairobi and between the classes in Nairobi, you have to look at maybe the lower classes more than you look at the well-off. I think I won't apologize for thinking more about Mathare and Kibera and thinking about Korogosho before I thought about Lavington, Kilereswa, and Hurlingham, where we are. I think there's more and greater demand for services and for attention so that we can have security for everybody. Security is something that is common to everybody, wherever you live. And if you want to work, for instance, in CBD at midnight tonight, you'll be thinking more about your security wherever you come from. So I think there is that tendency that if we focus more, and maybe on that budget of 15 billion, you think more about spending 10 billion on the lower classes, 5 billion, that is proportionate. Say 60% of what is available to go on the lower classes and 40%, I think that is about even in terms of the number of people involved.
I see. But aren't their problems the same? Aren't the basic problems the same? Access to water, access to electricity or power, access to infrastructure to be able to access their markets?
Yes.
Aren't the problems of the rich and the poor the same?
The problems,
and if you normalize it,
yes,
you know, the ones who are aggressive will be able to, you know, to rather than say you're going to finya the wealthy, nifinyeni kwanza ni sota 10 billion for this guys.
Even it can happen in America, my brother. It can happen in America. You saw the big debate in America about who is going to pay the bill in terms of the national debt in America. And Obama, the most powerful man in the world, eventually leaned towards the people who are rich to pay more.
But normalizing, he normalized the tax regime. Yes. He didn't fear the wealthy. He normalized it. He said, you know, wealthy people must pay taxes. You can't evade or avoid it.
They were paying more. And you were saying that the payment of this amount should be paid more by those who are earning more than $200,000.
So normalize it.
Per annum. Yeah, normalize it. And in respect also of Nairobi and also our country, because I also believe a good governor of Nairobi will not only focus on Nairobi, you also need to focus on Nairobi and its environs. There are very many people who live outside of Nairobi
who come into our country,
who come into work every morning and retire in the evening. We are talking about Kiambu, talking about Kajiado, talking about Machakos, we are talking about Murang'a even. With the highway 40 minutes.
Okay.
When you're in Murang'a, you're in Nairobi. So these are issues that where we need a governor who can be able to see Nairobi as a whole with a bit of tendency to be a bit left in terms of the poor. And so that they will not be ignored. I think they've been ignored for such a long time. It's only recently have we put the lights in Kibera. Where were the lights?
Yes.
Very, very recently.
In fact, there are many questions pertaining to that as well. But we're running short of time, so we need to hurry this up. And let's talk about monies. And I'll start with you, Thuku. People asking, so you know, we've seen your campaigns, we've seen your entourage.
Yes.
You seem to be a very well, you know, pennied individual at age 26, unless of course General Electric pays you a hefty amount of money, or you manage to save all that money at that time. Where do you get your funding from? Is that something that you know you are confident in exposing?
Well, I'll first explain, Jimmy. If you are my really a close friend, then you would have been at that convoy. So for me,
really? Okay.
yeah, you would have actually.
Okay. Okay.
And now maybe the second convoy, I'm inviting you to as
done.
well. So how I'm funding my campaign is just basically, of course, it's my political strategy on how I'll handle my campaigns. But just to give you a snapshot on how I'm funding my campaigns, I have well-wishers, guys who believe in the passion and the vision that I have for this country. We have family, we have friends who've given in-kind support. Like my convoy, I basically fuel the cars. And if you're my friend, then it becomes affordable for me.
You've got some serious guzzlers, eh? So if you're fueling all those motifs,
and then the other thing I also like to point out, maybe, I don't know, well, it's my strategy. When I was naming my running mate, Wanjiko Mwangi,
yes,
who was second after Rachel Shebesh as a women rep for Nairobi County, she had done a lot of the groundwork. I mean, if I just mention her name at the Mashinani level, guys relate with her.
Nice.
They know. So when it comes to how much I'm spending for publicity, then the cost is down. But that was not the only reason that informed my choice of the running mate.
It's a smart move, though.
Yeah. So, so that actually, for me, I just need to say I'm working with Wanjiko Mwangi, and guys already know the kind of people we are talking about.
The reason why I ask is, I don't know if you know that there was an article in the papers about your family, and more specifically your father.
Okay.
That raised some very interesting questions about his wealth, and here we're talking about integrity. I don't know if you read the article. It was pretty interesting, damning in some instances. What would your thoughts be on that, and especially in terms of whether then you're able to specifically focus on your role as governor? No one will twist you, or you won't have certain interests in terms of family, who have, because you mentioned family also comes into play. That article comes into play, and your father is not a poor guy. So so bear it all to us in terms of your integrity. Are you able to stand and say, yes, I am standing for governor because I am passionate about the people of Nairobi County, and not because I speak well and somebody's pushing certain interests? Because that was a very interesting article about your father and what his business interests are like.
So first, I'd like to say...
Is that where the money comes from?
No. Let me explain some few things here and clarify. So for me, when you look, first, I'd love the Kenyan citizens to judge me for who I am, and not because where I come from. But it's also important to mention that, well, my father is someone I love so much, someone who's really supportive, and he believes in the vision and mission of driving this county forward. And he's been really supportive. About the articles that have been published, well, for me, I think I know him as a person for the business that he does, and that's what I know him for. And I believe if given an opportunity to run this county, and someone comes and presents proper and well-investigated information and accurate, then as a county governor, I have signed the commitment. If I breach that integrity commitment, I'll step down.
You put in your word on that?
I'm putting my words.
That's powerful. Bona Kihoro, because somebody does ask Bona Kihoro this, and they say they really miss you in Parliament.
Yes.
But they're saying you're not a very wealthy man.
No, I'm not. But I'm a coffee farmer. I'm a coffee farmer. I'm also an urbanized character. I've been in town for nearly 35 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how are you financing your campaigns?
I'm finding it very difficult. Finding it very difficult to move my campaign. I haven't been on any motorcade at all in town. And I also take exception of some of the campaigns that are in town, because I find that they are disregarding the Nairobi citizen. In terms of, they are causing traffic jams. They're part of the problem.
So you can use that as an example. You see this, I will fix this.
They're part of the problem.
Radical yet, sorry,
you find a motorcade of nearly 30 vehicles moving on at midday, blocking a road, and because they're 30, they think it should be 100. And therefore, the way to get to 100 is to block the road for about 10 minutes. I take exception also of the way some of the candidates want to litter, to paint everything in their colors. I don't think it is right.
Okay, you're very
because they don't also come.
Talk about how you're funding your campaign. You remember there was a research done by, I don't know who it is, we know now Paul's a bit questionable. But apparently Kenyans don't want a poor guy.
They don't.
To be either county or president.
They don't, but this time round, I think they have no alternative but go for an independent person who will also run Nairobi in a way that is not going to make Nairobi a city or a county that is run by a party. For me, one of the most dangerous things that can happen in this county is to have the county run by a political party, because decisions will be made at the political party level. Like go and sack 500 people and employ ours 500.
Our current political parties as they are now.
As they are now. Because
maybe
decisions will be made elsewhere by this conclave of members of the political party. And this person who is a candidate of that party will find it impossible to reject or resist the force that is coming from his party. Go and do this in Nairobi County office. We want you, there are just too many of them in here, go and serve 500. And that I think will be important. And that is why also partly why I'm running as an independent. Because I have an independent mind, and I'll be able to evaluate. I'll have a county executive. I can be able to get people from across the political divide. I can be able to get professionals to come in. And we want somebody who can also be able to speak to the professions, the lawyers, the engineers, the surveyors, the valuers. You want the whole cross-section, be able to speak to FIDA without being taken there.
Absolutely.
And we want the whole variety, even KOTU.
Absolutely.
So that even the civil society, you need somebody with that kind of variety background who can be listened to.
Absolutely. As you wind up, just one statement from the both of you, because by the overwhelming support for both of you.
Thank you.
Overwhelming support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
People are telling us, thank you, citizen, for bringing back Wanyiri Kihoro. We haven't seen him in years.
Thank you.
But you've been on the news, though.
I've been. I met Mono is in
I know.
And today, it's my. Also, I'm going to present my papers today.
Yes.
So I do expect later on.
Exactly. It's deadline is for it. Don't go there at 5.
I'll not go at 5. I'm going at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Of course, for you for being, for the saying citizen, thank you for bringing this young man onto our screens. Very impressive. They say they want Nairobi to be a hub. People are saying financial hub. People are saying all sorts of things about Nairobi, which means basically we're thinking 22nd century for that matter. The president said, let's not celebrate the small things. Let's celebrate with developments like this. And he was talking about Konza City. So take me there. Let me start with you, Thuku. Take me to Dubai. Tell me that when you're sitting there as governor, I'm going to, at some point, I'll begin to see that journey begin.
Oh, so my strategy is very clear. If you read my document here, I'll be unveiling it soon. We have 2 committees that I want to form once I become the governor. I'll have a committee to do the short-term projects, and then I'll have a committee to be driving the long-term projects. Leave alone that I have been really involved in some of the city's initiatives.
Right.
I'm not going to mention them because of confidentiality agreement. I've seen how those projects are financed. I know how to handle such magnitude of projects. Even Konza City is one, it's public information. I've also looked at them and where they want to go. And I also have ideas on how to finance such projects. So for me, my long-term committee, per se, will be focusing on the long-term projects so that when I start immediately, the guy is already seeing 5 years from now.
Well done.
And then we have people
people
who will now be looking at the short-term projects. So for me, I think they'll start realizing the change with my committee.
Nice.
They'll be focusing on that, and I'll have experts to also advise on how to fund such projects. We have very innovative ways of financing projects, and you'll be surprised if the youth and the people of my county give me an opportunity to lead. You will not regret. That I'm for sure you won't regret that.
Well done. I like that.
Yes.
Kihoro.
Yes, I think
well done.
Nairobi too is a center that is important. It's going to be a focus of attention in terms of the country. We have got 47 counties in this country. Nairobi will be a lead county. Nairobi is a regional leader in East Africa and also in Eastern Africa, and it should lead by example. Myself, I've got the experience in my long active life of even having worked with people who are close in government in Uganda, including the president of Uganda and the prime minister today, Amama Babazi. People in southern Sudan, when nobody dreamt that southern Sudan would become independent. In nearly 25 years ago, and I was in exile in London in 1985, I was one of the people who were fighting Numeri. Very few Kenyans who take pride. Numeri in 1985 when he fell. Then we had Mahdi came to power, and now we had the current president. But the people in southern Sudan, after the 1972 Addis Ababa agreement and now the government in South Sudan, many of them, including a very close advisor to the president, are people who are known to me because we struggled together for the freedom of South Sudan. From here to South Africa, somebody like Becky, he was at the University of Brighton, and I've never shied away from leadership in a deliberative role, whether in Kenya or outside of Kenya. And therefore, I take it that Nairobi, with a good governor who is opened up to what needs to be done at the slum level, to the high-class living areas, and then the regional area, and also in Nairobi. I can go to Wajir and live there today, because I got friends in Wajir today, or even in Mombasa, and even in Western Kenya. So I take a variety of life, and that is how I've led my life. That's why I got 6 books.
Well done. Like I said, overwhelming support for both of you. So all the best. As Mutagiolo says, may the best candidate win. So all the best to you.
Yeah, very appreciative of you inviting us.
Very quickly.
One more thing, Jimmy. I'd like the people who are viewing us right now to make sure, because we have limited time in media, please make good use of social media. I have a Facebook page. It's Geoff Kobia for Nairobi Governor. Bring your issues, concerns. When I become the governor, I'm not going to be the governor of the people who voted me on alone. I'm going to be the governor of every person in the county. So I want to hear positive criticisms. I also want to hear support, and we'll work together. So
I'm also on website and www.wanyirikihoro.com and also on Facebook.
On Facebook, yes.
Perhaps they also need to remind the viewers you don't vote at the social media platform.
Yes. So if you do support them, of course, make sure that you are at the ballot box. We are live on Citizen. Stay with us.